For the second step in our process, which is joining our two leather hard pinch pot forms, we're going to need two additional tools. We're going to need some sort of tool that will help us scratch up the surface. This is a scraper that has a serrated edge. You don't have to use one of these, but they're very handy. You could also use a comb, a fork, any other steak knife, anything else that has enough of a serrated edge that will allow you to scratch the surface of the clay. So we're going to take, and every surface of the clay that is going to be joined together, anytime you join two pieces of clay, and this isn't just for pinch pots, this is any ceramic form, anytime you want to join two pieces of clay, we need to scratch them, and we need to add liquid slip. Now, this is some liquid slip I have here, and I'm just using a very cheap, inexpensive paintbrush to apply it. Liquid slip is simply, it's the same clay you're using in bagged form, except this has a lot more water added to it. And what this does is it acts like clay glue. We're going to scratch the other form. Now the reason we scratch these is so that liquid clay will work its way down into all those little tiny scratch marks. And when we press these two pieces together, the slip that's worked its way down into those little scratch marks on both sides, when we press them together, we're going to press them quite firmly. Remember, the pieces will are hard, so we can press it fairly firmly. We don't want to break it, but we can give it a good squeeze. And you'll see what I'm doing here. When I press it together, I'm wiggling it just a little bit, and what that does is it lines up those little serrated edges and really forces them together to glue those edges together. It gives it a little bit of tooth to hold it inside each other. Now you'll see that we've got some slip squeezing out here in between the seams. That's good. That tells us we've added enough slip. But we're going to go ahead and add a little more. We're going to paint all the way around this rim, and we're going to take our scratching tool, whatever that happens to be. An old comb works very, very well. And we're going to rough up the surface of those two join marks. Now, as clay dries, it shrinks. And if we were to leave this pinch pot as it is right now, with just the slip in between the two halves, what would happen is where those two pieces are joined together, it would form, we have our join here. As this shrinks, that clay is going to shrink inside the join, and what we would end up with is a divot right here where the liquid clay has shrunk more than the two outside portions. We don't want that. We want a nice clean seam. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll a small snake of clay. Remember doing this with Play-Doh when you were a kid. And the snake doesn't have to be perfect. You can break it off and roll it in small sections. And we just want it small enough that we can press it into that seam there. And remember, I roughed it up all the way around the edge. I'm going to add some more slip. Coat it all the way around. And we're going to press this coil right in there on top of that join line. I want to press it nice and firm so it really adheres in there on top of that slip. Now if you have to make more than one piece of snake to do this, that's perfectly fine. Most of this we're going to clean off. So if there's a little join where two snakes meet, that's not going to make a difference. We just want to make sure we press that clay in that seam, so when that goes to shrink, it'll pull some of this clay into that hole, so that when we scrape it off later, we'll have a nice even join. Now, since we've added liquid clay, we've moistened up the edges of these. So what we need to do is wrap this, let the whole piece equalize the moisture. We want everything to be leather hard before we go to the next process. Otherwise, we'll just be scraping off this clay that we've just applied here, and we don't want to do that. Okay? So wrap this up, let it get leather hard, and then we'll proceed with the next step of the process.